Good morning, guys. This is Issues with Toddy One Skip. I am Toddy One Skip. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for allowing me to be part of your day. As always, guys, it's so appreciated. So I did a video yesterday, and I touched on something, and it's, I've thought about this for a really, really long time, but it's such a tough topic that I was really skeptical about putting it on here. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought it's a topic that needs to be put on here. It might not be a popular topic. I might get scrutiny for it. I might even get hate for it. That's my coffee machine. But, when I was a writer, I always wanted to write shows. And at the end of the shows, I wanted to put missing kids up so that people could find missing children. And I did that on a few videos at the beginning of this when I was handling and dealing with cults and stuff. And then I saw there was another channel that actually did it after every episode that they did. And that was somebody, I think they were covering the Wade Wilson. And that's how I got in touch with, that's how I knew about that channel. I've never gotten in touch with them, but that's how I knew about that channel. So my topics weren't so much about kids. And then I'd come into stories like Jen Soto, Maddie Soto's, mom and Maddie. And I would lose it over Jen Soto and how she got away with just offering her kid up. Because that's what she did. To me, Jen Soto didn't want the romantic part or the intimate part. Let's say she probably wanted the romantic part, but she didn't want the ex. So she gave that to her daughter. Yeah. But Gypsy has shown signs to do that too, because she wrote about it. So it was in her mind. Most of us, the average bear, does not think about offering up their children at any age. Not at any age. But Gypsy did. And we've kind of glossed over it and went to the crime scene. But to me, they're connected, because the thing that motivates her is not goodness. It's bad. It's very bad. Yesterday, I did a video about Ian Watkins, who was the lead singer of the Lost Prophets. And he was unalived on October 11th in a prison in the UK. His crime was messing with people under the age, well under the age, babies. And when it was brought to the attention of the police, they were like, Ian Watkins. But it was Ian Watkins. So not only did Ian Watkins seem to think little kids would be something that would get him off, the mothers of these children, they allowed it to happen. They offered up their child. This stuff happens. And then we see again, it's in Gypsy's mind. There's something wrong with that. It's how many people actually think of doing that to their child or any child? There is a whole dark web of child pornography. We know this. So we know it happens. But then we see a letter after a brutal attack. I mean, that's when we saw the letter, right? After the brutal attack of her mom. That, mind you, remember, her mom, there could have been the same result just by killing her in a more humane way without all of the blood, the smell of it, the look of it, and the fact that Gypsy had ex that we know of, or tried to with Nick, but it was Nick that couldn't follow through, right? Because it didn't excite him, but it excited Gypsy. Where has that gone? because she has a kid, or she wants us to believe she has a kid. But where has the ugliness gone? Where has the, oh my God, that's my child, shown up? Where has the concern for the baby come from? Where is it? Is it just for us to see online? What is she doing behind the scenes? This is somebody who is committed to a horrendous act on a family member. On a family member. A horrendous act on a family member that she could have either walked away from or KILLED in a more humane way, but didn't. And that's the same person that was talking about offering up their child at 13 years old. She had to think about that, to write it down, to mail it, to send it, to push send. However he got that, however we got that transcript. And she wanted us to believe it was Nick, and it wasn't Nick. Nick couldn't even get HARD. Yeah, Gypsy got off on it. I had a few of you write to me privately and say, yeah, she was probably smearing the blood like she was the barbecue sauce. I believe it. I believe it. A few of you have said, why hasn't somebody spoken about this? I've thought about this. Why hasn't somebody spoken about this? Because I'm going to piss off a bunch of people. People that are going to say, Gypsy would never. Well, Gypsy should have never written anything like that. She should have never written anything that shouldn't have gone in her head. And then if it went in her head, she should have dismissed it as a horrible thought that she didn't understand where it came from. No, she was the author of it. She saw it. She wanted it. She promised it. And now she has a daughter. And some of us are saying, well, she loves that baby. She would never do anything to that baby. Why? She did horrible shit to her mom because of how she felt. And we know that she wasn't prisoner. We know that these surgeries were legitimate. We know that Gypsy faked some of her own shit. I don't care what she says. We've seen the proof. And this is the same person with the daughter who will one day be 13. That kink doesn't shut off and come on and shut off and come on. If it did, there would be a lot less people in prison if they can control their urges. Why isn't Gypsy considered that? If a man would have been caught with those letters that she wrote, what do you think would have happened? Well, they might not have, gotten out of prison, right? And wasn't Gypsy the one, and we heard this, right? Wasn't she the one that told somebody, this prisoner unalived their daughter? Well, she probably didn't want the kid anyway. Like, that's the answer. So nonchalant. That wasn't the popular answer in prison. That was Gypsy's answer. And so somebody went after Gypsy, right? That's what happened. That's the story that we're told. Gypsy doesn't know how. There's something lacking in her. There's something that's disconnected in her that makes her responsible, that makes her caring, that makes it so when she lies, she doesn't think about it. It doesn't matter. There is no guilt. There is no remorse. There is no shame. There is nothing. There is no quality that we have seen, that I have seen, that makes me think that that kid's safe. Not with Gypsy. Not with Gypsy. Because the destiny of that child in Gypsy's hands? No. 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 And I think we're going to see stuff. I think stuff has probably been going on behind the scenes because Gypsy's not your average bear like she'd like you to believe. She's a very, very sick person who shouldn't be walking around in society. What if it was a man? Seriously, what if it was a man that committed that crime? Like Nick. Supposedly Nick did it, right? He's sitting in prison forever. Little 5 foot nothing Gypsy Rose. She's not capable of doing anything. This is where we fail as a society. And this is where the judicial system fails as a judicial system, a system of justice. They let people like Gypsy out. And then it's up to us to protect ourselves from these people. So when her mindless minions say, she never did anything to you, well, why should we wait for that to happen? He loves her baby. Well, we don't see that. We haven't seen anything where she loves her baby or even that she puts the baby first. I mean, that we haven't seen that. Well, there's behind the scenes. I'm very afraid of behind the scenes. Very afraid of behind the scenes for that baby. Because all you have to do is put those two things together and see, wow, this is the making of somebody who has no respect for children, maybe a PDF, right? I mean, they were offering up their 13-year-old daughter, right? That's what we saw it. And yet some people think she's no danger. Yeah, she's a huge danger. People need to be having this conversation for Aurora, not for Gypsy, but for Aurora. Ken needs to hear this. Ken's mom needs to hear this. Gypsy's make-believe child that she hoped to have, in her mind, she was saving the child so that they could be RAPE'd by their dad. She wrote it. It's not fantasy. And that kind of fantasy isn't normal fantasy. It's not normal kink. That's not what that is. That's danger. And that's what we need to be talking about. Gypsy's fucked upness hasn't gone anywhere except out here to society. And basically, she's been awarded and rewarded by people that have co-signed this fucking behavior. Who in their right mind would look at a letter that says, I'm going to offer our 13-year-old daughter to you, to say, oh, that's just a fantasy. Before it's written down on paper, it's imagined. It's seen in somebody's mind. And you don't see that as a red flag, mindless minions? Everybody else out there who's just ready to co-sign? People that might one day have children to play with Aurora? This is the person. You don't think there needs to be a warning? You don't think that somebody with a child who becomes friends with Aurora, whoever her last name is, should go to Gypsy's house? You would trust that? If you knew that was yours, if you knew that that was your kid's friend's mom, and you knew about that letter, would you trust that? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because then if something were to happen, you should have seen the red flags. It's your fault. You weren't responsible. You don't know this as a parent, grandparent, guardian, whatever. Gypsy's story's out there. We know who she is. Whether she wants us to believe it or not, we know it. It's true. Her mindless minions that fight for her everything. Fight for this. What is this about? Bree, think about it. Would you let your kid go to somebody's house who wrote about having their kid at 13 years old RAPED'd by the dad? Would you let your child go there? Is that normal fantasy? Is that normal kink, healthy kink? No, it's not. It's sick. It's illegal. It's criminal. It's diabolical. It's disgusting. It's everything wrong. But yet people find a reason for it. I will never find a reason for that. There should be never a reason for that. And she should have never gotten out of prison. She is a danger. She hasn't learned anything. All she's done is puff up herself. And a bunch of people have smacked her on the back and said, "Way to go. Good work." For what? For what? Guys, think about it. Seriously, think about it. This is Gypsy Rose. This is the person she is. So those of you that follow her, that think she's done something, yeah, look at what she's done. Ask yourself, where has all of that gone? It hasn't gone. It's still inside of her. And I guarantee you, behind the scenes, we don't know where it's gone, but it's there. It's happening. It's happening. I can only hope and pray it's happening with things like inanimate objects, like bananas, toothbrushes, doorknobs, but not with the baby. But with everything we know about Gypsy, seriously, you think the baby's safe? I'm just asking. Guys, this issues with Toddy One Skip. Toddy One Skip, I am. Sorry this topic's so dark, but it needs to be brought up. It needs to be talked about. Guys, be better today than you were yesterday, not half as good as you'll be tomorrow. Take care, guys. Thanks.